What is up, Nickel City Mafia? Welcome to Championship Weekend. We got two dandies on the slate this weekend. I mean, it's going to be some good football going on. Joining me with today is Chris Caldwell, Mr. Riku Mukherjee, and we're going to be getting into these games, these two games. We're going to be talking about who we think is going to win. Rick's going to give us some betting odds, and then we'll actually kind of go with some bets that we might play. I'm not much of a better. I've been trying to learn from these two guys. I had a rough week last week. I mean, 2 weeks ago I was red hot. I love overs, so for me it's all about overs. And I was red hot 2 weeks ago. Last week, you couldn't even. We had four overs that I liked. Tony even helped me. We teased them down 6 points, and even with the tease down, only two of them actually hit the over. It was crazy. But before we get into all that, I have a question for you guys. Being a Ravens fan, and I'm being a Bills fan, and I'll tell you my answer afterwards. When the Ravens are out of things, Chris, how do you just say, you know what? Do you look for a team that you're going to root for to win the Super Bowl, win it all, or you just say, you know what? I don't really care who wins. I just want to be entertained. What's your thought process on do you pick a team?
Yeah, I'm going to gravitate towards the NFC teams just because there's no way I can root for the Bengals. They knocked the Ravens out of the playoffs, and I'm not one of those people that says like, oh, I want the team that knocked us out to win it all to make myself feel better. No, there's no way I'm rooting for Bengals, Browns, or Steelers ever. And Chiefs, I'm a little bit tired of them, you know what I mean? And, it would be cool to see, greatness of Patrick Mahomes, build a legacy for himself the way we've seen Brady kind of build one over the years. But that aside, I mean, I can pretty much assure you whatever NFC team makes the Super Bowl, I'll be rooting for them to win the whole thing. Interested to see what Rick says.
Yeah. What about you, Rick?
I'm pretty much the opposite. I'm rooting for Bengals to win the whole thing, but more so for selfish reasons, I think. I don't really care at the end of the day if the Ravens aren't winning the Super Bowl. I really don't care who wins the Super Bowl. Like, it just doesn't matter to me. But I think that being a diehard Ravens fan and not being happy with the organization now for many years and not being happy with how things are being run when it comes to a coaching standpoint and stuff like that, and maybe even a personnel standpoint, I think that maybe if the Bengals win the Super Bowl, it gives the Ravens a little kick in the pants. Maybe it wakes them up a little bit. Maybe they understand that you need to have the likes of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to win a Super Bowl, and not Demarcus Robinson and Deshaun Jackson. But that's my train of thought. I mean, yeah, it's not fun to see a division rival win a Super Bowl, but at the end of the day, the Ravens haven't sniffed an AFC Championship game in, I don't know, almost a decade now. And I just think that if the Bengals win the Super Bowl, maybe it'll wake up DaCosta and Bisciotti and be like, hey, look, our division rivals won the Super Bowl. Not only won the Super Bowl, but have made two straight Super Bowls and won one. And maybe it'll give them a little kick in the pants and be like, hey, we need to change things around to be able to compete not only with the likes of Kansas City and Buffalo and whoever else in the conference, but we need to compete with the team that's at the top in our own division. So I'm a little different than Chris. I know it's really difficult to root for a team that you hate. I loathe the Bengals. I hate them. I hate them. I hate the Browns. But at the end of the day, I think it maybe helps the Ravens a little bit, just because it kind of gives them a little shove in the back to maybe change some things around and improve a little bit.
Yeah, I like that. For me, it's. I usually look I look for who's the underdog. I usually like an underdog for sure. I'll look for a local team. Is there a team in California? But this time around, I'm going with Bengals, and it's not for the reasons you said, Chris, because they beat us, and I want to see them go on and make me feel a little bit better. It's more of what they went through in Week 16 with the Bills in that Damar Hamlin tragic set of events that went on. They were there on the field. They had to deal with that. They came to Buffalo, and they just whooped the Bills. And I just want to see them go through and get this done. First of all, they're the only one of the four teams that has never won a Super Bowl. So let's get a new team winning the Super Bowl. I would love that. And that's my thought process is not because they beat us, but because of what they went through with the Buffalo Bills, and again, because they are the only team that has not won a Super Bowl.
I agree with you, Mike. I would have liked to seen a New York Giants Jacksonville Jaguars Super Bowl. That would have been fun.
Awesome. I think you're being a little sarcastic there, or are you being real?
That would have been a good story if two of the biggest.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, never thought would ever make the Super Bowl played each other in the Super Bowl. But yeah, I mean, it's always nice to see the best teams and the best quality teams play in the Super Bowl, which I think we got. I think I think we got probably the best 4 teams. Sans maybe the Bills and maybe, I mean, I don't really know if you can put the Cowboys in the same stratosphere as these 2 teams, but I think we got the at least 4 of the best 6 teams that to make the championship games.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's start with you, Rick. We got the game that starts it all on Sunday is the Niners traveling to Philadelphia. So talk to us about, what are the betting odds looking like right now?
So this line hasn't moved much, to be honest with you. It opened at 2.5. It's still 2.5 for the Eagles. I assume that's probably because the game is in Philly. The over/under for this game is 46.5, which also has not changed that much since it opened. Hold on a second, Callaway. I'm doing a podcast. And the only thing that I've really seen change over the course of the week since it opened on Sunday is it looks like the public is betting Philadelphia pretty hard, because the juice for the -2.5 has moved from -110 to looks around -120, -115 now. So when that happens and the line's kind of staying stagnant, it just kind of tells me that most of the people out there are betting the Eagles to cover the spread. The juice hasn't really changed on the over/under, so it looks like people are kind of betting the over/under pretty evenly. But since it is a championship game, I'm sure by game time more people are going to be betting the over, because people like to see points like you do. But right now I'm seeing Eagles -2.5 and 46.5.
Wow. So for you, who do you like in that game straight up? And then what, if any, bets would you make looking at those odds?
So like I've said on the last couple shows, in the midseason show that we did, I picked the 49ers and Chiefs to play in the Super Bowl, and I picked the 49ers to win the whole thing. It's tough for me to go back on that right now because of how well coached the 49ers are and stuff like that. But I'll be completely honest with you, Mike. I've been examining this game this week. I think the Eagles are just a better team. I think on pretty much almost every level of the field, except maybe I can't even say defensive line, because defensive line, the Eagles are pretty strong too. Maybe the secondary for the 49ers is a little bit better, but I think overall, the Eagles are a better team, and they get a home game. 49ers have to travel east after playing the last game of the week on Sunday last week, so a little bit of a shorter week for them. So I don't know, man. It's really tough, to be completely honest with you. If I was leaning one thing in this game, if you held a gun to my head and said you have to bet one thing on this game, I know you hate to hear it, but I kind of like the under. I think these are 2 running football teams. I think the clock's going to be running a lot. Good defensive teams in this game. I think 46.5 is a little bit too high of a number for this game. I think a line should have been closer to maybe 43, 42, 42.5 maybe. But they're probably never going to set that to be the line, especially with how good, how efficient both of these teams have been on offense the last 10 weeks or whatever. So I like the under. I like the under when it comes to games later in the postseason, because teams do tense up a little bit. They become a little bit more conservative, especially Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan is known to become more conservative, as evidenced by him blowing the Super Bowl against when he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons a couple years ago against the Chiefs. They could have won that game also. He just becomes a little bit more conservative when the things come to a head. And I just think that, my heart leans 49ers just because I've kind of been a 49ers fan like most of my life, just because they were like my NFC team. I rooted for them before the Ravens came to Baltimore, all that stuff. I wouldn't mind seeing Kyle Shanahan finally get the job done. The story of Brock Purdy is fantastic, being the Mr. Irrelevant in the draft to winning a Super Bowl. But I do think the Eagles are the better team. So I really don't lean aside here. So if I'm going to lean anything, it's going to be the under.
All right, and believe it or not, after what happened last week and these two good defenses, now there is and I always factor in weather a little bit.
Yeah.
It's going to be nice. I mean, it's going to be around 52 degrees, but south winds at 5 to 15 miles per hour. There's a chance of rain after 1 o'clock. So a little bit of rain can come into play. And of course, that really makes for an ugly game if that hits. But again, based on what I saw last week with the Eagles with the Eagles and the 49ers, I think with these two good defenses, I don't know if I can bet the over this week, guys. And I know that's tough for me to say. I'm actually having a hard time saying that right now. But let me throw it to you, Chris, on this game.
Yeah, man. I'm with Rick. I'm glad he was saying it's going to be, a tighter, low scoring game, especially after we saw what we saw last week, with all the games and these two teams in particular. I'm perfectly with you, Rick. I think, 43 to 44, that was the right over under for this game. But my biggest takeaway is if this over-under is 46.5, I don't know how the other one is 47.5. To me, these games should have been different in over-under by at least 3, maybe 4 points. So either this one's way too high or the other one's way too low, which we'll get to eventually. But there's no way that these games should have had an over-under difference of only 1 point. That's just ridiculous. 49ers and Eagles, much more stout defensively than either the Bengals or the Chiefs. So not really sure what's going on there, but I'll take the bait and lean towards the under on 49ers Eagles. And just to give a hint, I think over in Bengals Chiefs, Mike, that'll be your over of the week. So gear up for that one. But in terms of the spread, I think 2.5's hitting it right on the head. I mean, this feels like -2, -2.5 game for me. But I'm going to side with the Eagles here. I don't think it's a slam dunk bet, but if I had to bet one or the other, I'm going with the Eagles simply because the Eagles are 13-1 with Jalen Hurts as a starting quarterback. They're at home. The 49ers are on a shorter week than them, and they have to travel all the way across the country. And I'm betting the home team and the better quarterback. It's just as simple as that. And the Eagles offense has been almost as efficient as the 49ers offense. Two absolutely dynamic receivers, and then Jalen Hurts essentially being running back one for the Eagles. And then, they have their complementary running backs there with Miles Sanders. Kenny Gainwell had a really nice game last week. I think it's a 23 to 20 game, 24-21, something in that range. So I'm going to Eagles under.
Yeah, there's not much. I'm looking at these two teams, and on offense, skilled positions, I mean, they're both, loaded, both loaded. So the difference to me is, again, can Brock Purdy continue the Cinderella dream that's going on? He's been
8-0.
I know, it's been amazing. He is going to Philly. He's going into enemy territory. I do think. Obviously, I do believe the Eagles have a slightly better defense. I mean, they sacked opposing teams 70 times during the regular season. So they're going to be putting some heat on Purdy, but they do a fantastic job of getting the ball out of Purdy's hands, just like we'll talk about the Bengals in a little bit. And Joe Burrow, Joe Burrow was getting that ball out of his hands in about 2.5 seconds. So if you can do that, and they have such a well-balanced team, they can run the ball. Great trade this year for Christian McCaffrey. Man, my heart wants to go with the 49ers. As I said earlier, I look for those teams in California after the Bills are out. But I'm going to go with the Eagles to win straight up. If I had to tell you who I think is going to win, I do think they cover the spread. You said what, 2.5 points, Rick? Is that what it is they're favored by?
Yep.
2.5. And the over under is what? 46?
6.5.
46.5. Yeah, for this one, believe it or not, you're going to hear it first. I would take the under.
Let me throw some numbers at you while you were talking, guys. I just did a little research here. So I have a site that I use that shows like how much money is coming in on a certain side and a certain side of the over under. Right now on Friday, and obviously this could change before Sunday. For the side, it looks like 56% of the money is coming in on the Eagles, and 45% is coming in on the 49ers. And then 76% of the money is coming in on the under in this game. So only 25% of the people out there are betting the over.
What does that tell you when the public likes an under?
Yeah, you don't get that very often. Publics usually are about the favorites and the over. So if the public is loving the under here, we may be in for a high scoring game, boys.
Is that how you usually go, Rick? So if the public's siding one way, you feel like
you got to fade the public. That's how you make money in sports betting.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. One other prop that I like that I kind of wanted to get your take on this, Chris. So last week I was looking at the numbers in the Eagles-Giants game. They pretty much dominated that game. They ran the ball 47 times, I think, 46 times in that game. And Miles Sanders had 17 rush attempts in that game, off of 47 rush attempts total for the Eagles. His over-under for rush attempts in this game is 15. I think the Eagles are going to have to throw the ball a little bit in this game. I don't think they're going to be able to run all over the 49ers defense. Even if they try to run it, it seems like they have a running back committee going on right now with him, Sanders, Boston Scott. Who's the other guy, Chris?
Kenny Gainwell.
Kenny Gainwell. Yeah, he came out of nowhere too and had some carries last week. Jalen Hurts is going to carry the ball a bunch this game. I'd love to hear your thoughts, Chris, but I really like Miles Sanders under 15 rush attempts this game. I don't think he's going to get to 15 rush attempts.
Hey, so, Chris, real quick, can you maybe turn the speaker down a little bit? I think we're getting a little feedback here.
Gotcha.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So I would say that I wouldn't base it totally off last week's usage because, like you said, it was a blowout. So third and fourth quarter, they were, putting Gainwell in there. I think he actually had 100 yards, Gainwell, between rushing and receiving. So they were giving Sanders a blow in the third and fourth quarter. So I'd be interested, Rick, to see those opportunities, by quarter. I bet most of that was in the first half or early third quarter. But yeah, I think I'm with you. I think the way to beat the 49ers is not, necessarily Sanders' skill set. Running up the middle or running off tackle. I think they're going to try to spread them out. The Niners have a gettable secondary. So I think they're going to try to spread them out, use A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, even use Gainwell on the perimeter to try to get people in space. So, yeah, I mean, I think that line's pretty solid, 15 carries. All I'll suggest is just don't base it solely off last week because that was an anomaly. They were obviously just giving him some time off. But you also said it right that Miles Sanders might start the game. I don't think he's any more than a 50% usage back. As much as they use Gainwell, they love Boston Scott on the goal line. They love Jalen Hurts down in the red zone. So, Miles Sanders is the starter, but he's certainly not the workhorse.
All right.
I have a question for you guys on the prop bet things. Can they be part of a parlay, or do you have to do props on their own?
So, certain books allow it, some don't, but I know like the big books out there, like DraftKings Sportsbook, BetMGM, those kind of books, they do allow you to do. They allow you to parlay props together. They even allow you to parlay like same game props, which is like unheard of. Like you never used to be able to do that. Like they've had prop bets now for a while, but you would never be able to parlay like Boston Scott under rushing attempts, under rushing yards, over catches. Like you would never be able to parlay those things together, but some books out there allow you to do that nowadays.
So FanDuel actually pushes it. I mean, they put out like I think their advertisement for this week is if you do a same game parlay, it has to be same game. If you bet more than 3 ways, you get your money back if you lose the prop bet. But it has to be at least a 3-person prop in the same game, and it has to pay plus 400 or more.
Yeah.
Like your first bet, if you lose, then you get your money back.
Yeah, that's a good way for books to reel you in as new customers, is to give you those awesome promotions, and then you know you're just going to deposit more money and lose more money down the road.
Right.
Gotcha. So I didn't hear you. Are you taking the under on those 15 carries? Would you? It sounds like you would, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get to 15 carries this week. He had 17 carries last week when they had 47 rush attempts. But like Chris said, I just think they're running back by committee now, including Jalen Hurts, and in a game where I think it's going to be more dependent on Jalen Hurts' arm than his legs. That they're going to he's not going to get to that rush attempt number.
I like that as well. All right, well, let's move on to the second game on the slate here, which is going to be a dandy. I mean, back-to-back years, the rematch, the AFC Championship, Bengals go to Kansas City, and this is going to be a good one. So, Rick, why don't you start us off with the numbers there, the odds?
Sure. So this line has been moving a lot more than the other game, mainly due to Patrick Mahomes' injury status. This line opened first. It opened on Sunday at Chiefs minus 2.5, and then when we found out that Patrick Mahomes had a quote unquote high ankle sprain, when that news came out, books adjusted the number to Bengals minus 2.5 because there was thoughts of, hey, you know, people usually don't come back and play the following week after a high ankle sprain, which, earlier in the week, it was talks about Patrick Mahomes missing this game and Henny starting this game and playing this game. So the line moved to minus 2.5. Then we got news on Tuesday and Wednesday that Patrick Mahomes was practicing, and he's pretty much said he's a full go for the weekend and he's going to play, he's going to start. So the line shifted back to the Chiefs being favored, and it looks like it's settled at Chiefs minus 1.5. So they need to win by 2 points to cover the spread. And then the over-under for this game, like Chris said earlier, is 48 points, which is pretty much in line with what their over-unders have been between the Chiefs and Bengals recently. They've actually been a little bit more recently because both quarterbacks were healthy. I think the last game that they played, the over-under was like 50, maybe 50.5 or something like that. So I think the little drop in the number to 48 is due to the injury concern of Patrick Mahomes. So, if he was to start this game and he was to, re-aggravate that ankle or something like that in the game, maybe they're taking a little bit of insurance into that, thinking that Chad Henne could come into this game potentially during the game in case Patrick Mahomes gets more hurt and can't finish the game, which would obviously diminish the Chiefs' ability to score some points. So it's settled at 48 now. I don't see it moving much from that number unless we get even more news between now and Sunday that, I don't know, maybe Patrick Mahomes didn't have a high ankle sprain and it was just like a low ankle sprain and he's 100% good to go. I don't know, but I don't see this line moving much from now unless we get more news going into the weekend.
So who are you liking then? Who are you liking in the game and with the points and that over under?
So everything says Bengals. Obviously, Bengals, Joe Burrow's won the last 3 games against the Chiefs. They have pretty much dominated them the last 3 meetings. But I think I'm going to roll with KC in this game. I think the spread is too small. First of all, if Mahomes is healthy, and I'm assuming he's healthy if he's going to play and start and practice and all that stuff. If he's healthy, I just think asking the Chiefs to basically win a game at home, an AFC Championship game, which is what they've been part of the last, 5 years now in a row that they've made.
Yeah, this will be their fifth year.
Yeah, 5th year in a row. So to just win a game at home in that Raucous Stadium, in some potential weather, cold, snow, stuff like that. I know the Bengals went and did it last week. I know they went into a snowstorm and a blizzard in Buffalo and did it. But I think that the Chiefs are going to get the job done. I don't really have a take on the over-under in this game. Like Chris was saying, one of the over-unders is off this week. Maybe this over-under should be 50.5. So if I was leaning something, if I'm going to assume that Patrick Mahomes is going to be healthy and he's going to play the whole game, I think I lean the over. We know the Chiefs' weak spot is their defense, and the Bengals are definitely going to score some points in this game. But I think at the end of the day, I think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. He's Superman right now. He played through an ankle injury second half last week. I just think he's going to get the job done at home. I'm going to roll with Chiefs.
Ricky forgot to say, Patrick Mahomes is the greatest of all times.
Greatest of all time. Something's up with your mic, your microphone mic. Yeah, I don't know. Every time you're talking, I'm getting like a staticky noise. I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting. What about you, Chris? Same thing?
Yeah, I hear like every other word, but we can hear you enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me throw it to you, Chris. I'll drop off and come back in.
You're better now. You're better now.
You're
better now.
Yeah. So what I'm learning is every time I open up browsers to try to get some information, it seems to impact my mic here, which is strange. But does it sounds okay right now?
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully it holds. So Rick, based on the over number, the under over number, what scares me is I don't know what version of Mahomes I'm going to get. I know he's going to play. The guy's tough as nails. He's going to play in that game. He was so upset last week when they actually sent him to the locker room to get checked out. High ankle sprain scares me. They'll wrap that thing. Who knows what they'll do, but he'll be out there for sure. My concern is, will he be hampered in some degree, and will he re-injure that quickly? High ankle sprain, that could be re-injured. He is a mobile quarterback. That's part of his game, and so scares me there.
Do we think that the high ankle sprain is a little overblown here? Because I've never heard of a person coming back from a high ankle sprain, let alone finishing a game, then coming back and playing the next week. Usually, it's a 4 to 6 week injury.
It's not a high ankle sprain.
Yeah,
It's not a high ankle
sprain. Let me tell you, it looked bad.
It looked bad, but you've hardly ever seen, most players, if they have a bad ankle sprain, a low ankle sprain, they'll miss 1 week, maybe 2. But if they have a high ankle sprain, it's 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the age and health and in what position they play. There's no way with an actual high ankle sprain, you finish the game, are out of the walking boot and practicing the next week. It's just not a high ankle sprain. They can say it all they want. It's not.
Interesting.
So do we think he's just mucking this injury up a little bit? Like he's pulling an Aaron Rodgers and just, trying to look like a warrior or something like that? It doesn't seem like something Patrick Mahomes would do, but maybe he thinks it's giving him a little bit of an advantage. I don't know.
It's kind of like what Josh Allen did in when he, with that elbow injury against the Jets, right? Everyone was talking about he could potentially be out for the season. They didn't think he was going to play the following week. And then sure enough, he was out there. And yeah, it bothered him a little bit, but not that much, not as much as you would have expected. So maybe there's a little bit of that going on. But, the Bengals are planning for Mahomes. Come on, man. I don't see what the benefit of doing that is whatsoever. But it is interesting. So, Chris, your thoughts on the game then?
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't have to be, Mahomes. He doesn't have to, he's not the author of this injury, right? Like, he's just the one that got hurt. I mean, it could be the team trainers saying, oh, yeah, we think it's an ankle, like could be a high ankle. And they just run with it and say, why not? We'll call it a high ankle sprain and we're unsure if he's playing. But, no doubt about it, Mahomes is starting this game. He's going to finish this game unless he has a new injury or, rolls up on the ankle the same exact way. No doubt about it. So I think this line is it's only this low for the Chiefs because of the injury. If Mahomes was not injured, I think this line is easily 3 and might even be Chiefs 3.5. I know that's tough to say because the Bengals have beat them 3 times in a row, but championship game, home cooking, best quarterback in football, A+ coach and Andy Reid. I can't bet the Bengals here. It's Chiefs or nothing for me, but my favorite bet in this game is definitely the over. Like I was saying earlier, I I can't tell if the Eagles 49ers over should be 42 or 43, or this one's just way too low. But I'm going to just go out on a limb and say this one's way too low. I love the over in this game. I think when you put two great quarterbacks against each other, in this kind of, with these stakes on the line, they're going to want to gunsling it. They're going to be talking to their coaches saying, let it rip. This is not going to be a ground game. It's not a Mixon versus Pacheco. This is Burrow versus Mahomes. I think we're going to see some points. I'm liking like a 38-20, 38-27 type of game. I think the over is going to get there pretty easy. I don't think the weather is going to be a huge factor. Like Rick says, if there's a little bit of weather, as long as it's not windy, sometimes it leads to a fluke touchdown or two. So, I'm going to go Chiefs and over.
So you mentioned the weather. What I was reading, gust up to 28 miles per hour, potentially very cold, in the teens, 12, 13 degrees. So cold, and could be some wind. So again, it's hard to get the weather forecast because it changes so much from hour to hour. But I would definitely take a look at that. I'm completely opposite of you, Chris. I know I'm Mr. Over, but I probably won't even touch that because of the fact that I am worried what version of Mahomes I'm going to get, and because of some of the weather that I'm reading. But as far as who I think wins this game, straight up money line, Bengals all day. I think the Bengals win it, and I could be a little biased because they just whooped the Bills, but they have such a good coaching staff. They are going to scheme up. We've seen them beat the Chiefs 3 consecutive times. Why would you think they'd lose? Why would you think they'd be beat this time? They have a great coaching staff. They're going to scheme up properly. They got the 3-headed monsters. They're receiving. From a skill position, I give the Bengals the edge there with their receiving core. Their running backs are healthy and looking good. So from an offensive standpoint, they are going to look at what the Chiefs have been doing. They're going to come up. Burrow last week against the Bills, it was like drop back 2.5 seconds on average, get the ball out to those big guys. The Bills play a lot of zone, so they were able to just chew them up on these short little routes. And those big receivers would take a 4 or 5 yard catch and get another 2-3 yards, so 8 yards, 7-8 yards. And then they ran the ball extremely well. So I think they're going to give the Chiefs all they can handle, and because I still believe Mahomes is not going to be 100%, I like the Bengals straight up. I won't touch the over-under on that one, believe it or not.
Do you think that the second week, so they've already announced, I know it was a big to-do last week with Jonah Williams and Alex Kappa being out for the Bengals offensive line. They are both announced today that they're out again. So I don't know if it's a thing or not, but sometimes when you do a patchwork offensive line, sometimes that first week you kind of get through it on gutsiness and adrenaline, and there's not much tape on how the line will play with that orientation. But now that the Chiefs are going to have tape on how these backups have been playing. There's no way, I guess you could flip the coin and say, well, the backups have had a week of time to mold into the offense. But to me, I think, there's a reason they're backups. Their 2 best offensive linemen are out, and I think it might catch up to them. So that's another small reason I lean Chiefs, is just because it's, Jonah Williams is great left tackle, Alex Kappa, right guard. This is a big deal. So, I don't want to overlook that.
Yeah. My only thought on that is, they had a terrible offensive line last year and they got to the Super Bowl. Yeah. And those 3 guys that started last week, they looked like all pros against the Bills. They absolutely dominated. And I think a lot of it, again, what I was saying is with Burrow being able, is my audio still okay with you guys?
Yeah.
All right. I don't want to be talking and then people listening like, what a bunch of crap. But, but Burrow being able to get the ball out so quick, Chris, I think that alleviates any of that concern there. I can tell you this, that those guys were big. When I watched that game, like, damn, why do the Bills guys, the defensive line, look so small to these guys? They were huge, and as far as run blocking, they were just totally in control. And again, I think Burrow's quick release and the scheme they'll come up with for those receivers, I think that mitigates the problem that you're talking about. I don't know what you think, Rick.
Rick, can you run the line and the spread? There's a
Yep.
question in the chat. Yeah.
Yep. TB, I was just about to do that. TB 83. The line in the Eagles 49ers game is Eagles minus 2.5. Over under is 46.5. In the Bengals Chiefs game, the Chiefs are favored minus 1.5, and the over under is 48. Yep. So that's the over under for and the spread for both of those games. What was your question, Mike? I forgot what you asked me, but
about the offensive line concerns with the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, they seem like they held up pretty well last week. I don't know if it was I saw some video online that the reason why the offensive line played better last week against the Bills was because maybe they used the snow as an advantage. It's a little bit more difficult to rush the passer when you're running in the snow, because I guess offensive linemen can kind of use their leverage to and the snow on the ground to kind of knock those defensive linemen down without holding. So we'll see. I don't know. I'll obviously have to look at the weather report a little bit more when it gets closer. I mean, it's only Friday right now, so things can change. Yeah. But if it's not going to be snow, if it's not going to be any precipitation, if it's just wind, yeah, the offensive line could be a problem. But like we said last year, the Bengals won when giving up multiple sacks every single game, and Joe Burrow just is that guy. He knows how to get rid of the ball fast. He's one of the fastest, quickest releases in all of the NFL. So by the time he snaps the ball to by the time it's gone, it's tough to get to him, man. It's tough to not tough to get to him, but it's tough to make a difference in the game if he's getting the ball out pretty quickly. But I just wanted to say that the last 3 times that the Bengals and the Chiefs played, we had 55 points, 51 points, and I think another 55 points or something like that. But each game has gone into the 50s the last 3 times that they've played with these 2 quarterbacks. So, yeah, I definitely am starting. Chris, you're starting to convince me on the over. I looked at the percentages right now. It looks like how 75% of the money's coming in on the under in the Eagles game. It looks like 75% of the money's coming in on the over in this game, 48. So it looks like the public is favoring the over in this game. And as far as the side goes, it looks like 60% of the money's coming in on the Bengals. I don't know if that was more so like earlier in the week when we were unsure about Mahomes' injury. So I'm not really taking too much stock into that. But I think the numbers are telling a tale that the public is definitely betting the over in this game.
So doesn't that make you want to bet the under based on what you said on the first game?
Yeah, of course. But the public's not always wrong, so you got to sometimes lean with what you feel in your gut. One other thing I wanted to say about this game is that I know what you said. I want to just comment on what you said earlier when you said, the Bengals, Joe Burrow has beaten Patrick Mahomes 3 straight times. What's going to be any different this time? I don't know, man. I think the word revenge is a real thing in the NFL. Like, you don't think Patrick Mahomes is hearing that like all week? You don't think he knows? You don't think Andy Reid knows that they've lost to these guys 3 straight times and they've had their number the last 3 straight games? So I think it's pretty important. I think that revenge is a motivating factor. Also, if the Eagles end up winning the first game, I think it's going to be a nice little storyline with Andy Reid playing against his former team in the Eagles in the Super Bowl. So that doesn't really mean anything, but it's a motivation for Andy Reid in the game to go up against his old team in the Super Bowl. So we'll see how it goes. But I definitely am going to lean the Chiefs. They were my pick to make the Super Bowl earlier in the season. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and you said you had a bet on that, right? Did they go to no? Okay.
Oh no! I don't have a bet on that.
Oh, okay. So I like TB83 is kind of in line with me. Money line Bengals under. He says 26-20 over on field goal attempts and made. under 26 to 20. Over on field goal attempts, and I don't know what that means. What's that mean, guys?
I think what he's saying is that he's predicting the score to be 26-20, and he thinks that I'm not sure what the line is, but whatever the over/under is on field goal attempts and made field goals in the game, that's a prop that you can bet. I think he's taking the over. So he's basically saying there's going to be a lot of field goals in this game.
A lot of offense, but not a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, gotcha.
Did you see the thing where Chris Jones he said that it's called Burrowhead, not Arrowhead? I thought that was pretty funny. But I'm with you, Rick, when you said, I'm not going to say I'm throwing it in the trash that Burrows beat Mahomes 3 straight times, but can you ever dream of a situation where Patrick Mahomes loses to the same team 4 times in a row? Yeah. It just doesn't seem right. So I think that would defy logic for me. So it's probably another reason I'm just, like I said, not ignoring it, but let's be real. Patrick Mahomes is amazing. He's shown it, how many years in a row now. I'm going with the home cooking, and that crowd's going to be absolutely crazy. They want it to be snowy. They want it to be windy. They want it to be cold. So, I'm rocking with the home guys.
I don't know how bad weather hurts that ankle. I think the colder could bother that ankle even more. I'm sorry, Rick. I'll let you go first. I had a comment.
Yeah, I wanted to say one more thing. I have noticed that with the Bengals in the playoffs, at least the last couple of years, when they start off hot and they go into the locker room with a lead, they seem to finish the job. They seem to be able to get the job done. So if just a thought out there, if the Bengals are winning at halftime, you may want to think about betting the Bengals second half, just because I mean, depending obviously what the line is or whatever, but if the line is predicting the Bengals to win the game and they're winning at halftime, might not be a bad bet to, especially if you have a Chiefs bet at -1.5 and you want to maybe hedge a little bit or something like that. But Bengals usually seem to, when they come out hot and they play well in the first half, they seem to follow it up and play well in the second half as well.
Well, that's good information. So the Bengals defense, I was going to mention the Bengals defense. I mean, one of the reasons they've been so successful against not only the Chiefs, not only what they did to the Bills, but they like to rush 3 and drop 8 in the coverage, and they can get to you with 3. But then when you least expect it, they bring somebody off the edge. Maybe it's a safety, maybe it's a linebacker. What they did to the Bills had the Bills completely confused, and they've been able to do similar things against the Chiefs in those prior 3 games. They're well coached, and again, they're a very good defense, and that's another reason why I'm with TB83 money line all day for me. And you guys you're talking me now into over. You know how susceptible I am to the over, and now you're like got me thinking, oh my goodness. So maybe I am going to bet that over, because based on those numbers, those 3 previous games, 50, and you said the over right now is what, 48?
47.5 or 48. I mean, where you look at
48,
yeah.
Man.
But yeah, 3 straight times in the 50s, and I like I said, it depends what you think about Mahomes, right? I think the line for the Chiefs and the over/under are both scared down by about 2 points because of the Mahomes injury, which is probably fair. But if you think he's going to play and finish the game, that tells you which way you should lean.
Yeah, that's for sure. I do think he'll play. I mean, the guy's tough as nails, like I said earlier. I think even if that ankle does bother him, he's going to play through it. So I do believe he'll play the whole game.
I wanted to ask you guys a question on what you thought about this. Last week, in the 4 games, we literally had a tight end score in every game. Whether it was the first touchdown, I know some guy had a parlay with 4 tight ends scoring first, but Kelsey scored, Goddard scored, Schultz scored, and then the second touchdown for the Bengals last week was Hayden Hurst scoring.
Yeah.
So is that a trend in the playoffs? Is it just a week, like a week where it was like just a fluke coincidence, or are these quarterbacks relying heavily? I mean, we know that Patrick Mahomes relies heavily on Kelsey, but are these guys just relying heavily on their tight ends in the playoffs?
Dude, it was wild. The all of the best tight ends in the NFL all made it to the playoffs.
Yeah,
it was. You have 4 good tight ends left here, and you have Mark Andrews as well, you know, who made it to the playoffs. And I don't know. It's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Maybe tight ends are that important, you know. I saw a stat today. You know, Dallas Goedert is second in the NFL in yards after catch. That's unreal from a tight end. The fact that a tight end, you know, Deebo Samuel obviously is number 1. He's like the god at Yak, but for Dallas Goedert to be number 2 is wild. But yeah, and Kittle's up there as well. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a little bit fluky that it scored in every game, but yeah, if Kittle, Goddard, Hurst, and Kelsey do it again, I don't think anyone's surprised. I mean, it's almost a sure thing Kelsey scores, right? I mean, when they're inside the 10, there's half their playbook is drawn up specifically for him.
Yeah, I had that. I had that touchdown, anytime touchdown on Jerick McKinnon last week, and they got down to the 11-yard line. I was like, just throw it to McKinnon. Don't throw it to Kelsey. Immediately drops back, throws it to Kelsey, and he scores right away. So I was like very pissed about that.
You know, I don't know if this might get you thinking about some sort of prop bet, but the Chiefs were really low on McKinnon last week. Yeah. They did not use him at all in the same way that they used him the prior 4 or 5 weeks. I would notice that immediately. I don't know exactly how many touches he had, but it was not many. You know, definitely less than 10, and I think it was way less than that. So, yeah, just a thought out there about, you know, Pacheco. You know, maybe he has the full nod as like the guy, or maybe it was just a one-off. But yeah, it was really, really odd because McKinnon was one of the hottest running backs in the NFL. Then all of a sudden just ghosted. So something to think about.
Yeah, what do you got there? TB83 coming in. Plenty of offense between the 20s. Plenty of McPherson and Butker.
Yeah, looks like he's predicting a lot of field goals in this game. I don't know about that, man. I can see a lot of touchdowns in this game.
Two good kickers, I will say that.
Yeah, 2 good kickers. Purdy been leaning on Kittle too. Yeah, Purdy's been leaning on everybody. Man, the 49ers offense is just so freaking efficient. I mean, you didn't even have to be Brock Purdy. It could have been anybody like being plugged in that offense. And just Kyle Shanahan knows how to coach him up, and he knows how to run an efficient offense. And I just think he's going way past his expectations or whatever, but I just think you plug anybody into that offense as long as it's not like Jamarcus Russell and you're good. You're gonna win games.
I'm gonna use that comment, Rick, as a teaser to a show we have coming up. We're either gonna do it next week or, you know, within the next 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to do a show specifically about quarterbacks and their landing spots for 2023. And the 49ers situation is probably going to dominate half that show. It's one of the most intriguing storylines, at least to me, of the offseason is what do you do when you have Mr. Irrelevant? He's 8-0. You have a QB-friendly system, and then you have Jimmy G, who – oddly enough, they keep talking about his injury as if it seems to me you wouldn't bring it up unless if he was 100% and ready to play, you'd be willing to put him in the game and bench Purdy. To me, it's just so odd how it keeps hitting ESPN and NFL Network and whatnot. If you had no thoughts to play the guy, just forget about it, like sweep it under the rug. But it's so odd how they keep bringing it up. But anyway, the Purdy versus, you know, Trey Lance thing next year, you know, versus all the rumors of, you know, Brady would go to San Fran. And then there was a rumor, you know, months ago that Kyle Shanahan would love to coach Lamar Jackson and all this stuff. So I can't wait to talk about QB landing spots. It's going to be really interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, that could make, you know, I think the AFC East is in dire need. A couple of the teams, if they get a quarterback, they're going to take off. If they go after one of these big names, man, that AFC East is going to be turned upside down.
Aaron Rodgers to the Jets was the big today on Twitter. It was like all over the place because they hired Nathaniel Hackett.
Well, first of all, I can't believe that. That is a terrible hire. What kind of hire is that?
Nathaniel Hackett is the only coach that fired himself. Like he was calling plays for the Broncos, right? And he fired himself from calling plays.
I can't believe it's I can't believe it's January 20. We're doing this show on January 27th, and there's still what 4 or 5 coaching jobs still available. I mean, we've only had one head coach hired so far in the month of January, which is Frank Reich going to the Carolina Panthers. I can't believe there's still so many jobs that are still open.
It's because all of the coaches being sought after are still in the playoffs right now, or a lot of them are. The Ravens are after the 49ers QB coach and the Eagles QB coach and Eric Bieniemy. I never know how I say that. For their Bieniemy as their offensive coordinator. So the Ravens have 3 OC requests out that are still playing. I know you're talking about head coach, but it looks like DeMeco Ryans is going to be the head coach of the Texans, right? It seems like all but a done deal.
It makes sense. I mean, he played many years for their team, and he's definitely going to be a hot coaching candidate. And we know what he's done with the 49ers defense the last couple of years. So, yeah, I could see that happening. But I don't know. I'm just surprised that it's late January and we've only had one head coach hire. I'm just surprised by that. That's all.
Yeah. So Dustin Rosa says you lean on Kittle. I agree. I didn't get to comment on your tight end question there, Rick, but I mean, these 4 teams have all legit tight ends. How nice to have that. I mean, another reason I like the Bengals, not only do they have those 3 receivers, not only do they have those 2 running backs who both can catch the ball and run, but they have that tight end, Hayden Hurst, and he's a gem as well. So all these teams have legit tight ends. So it's fun. I want to tell you guys something crazy. You know who took the hit so far for the Buffalo Bills loss? You know who they fired? Did you read that news?
No. Should have been Ken Dorsey, maybe? I don't know.
Well, so Ken Dorsey's the offensive coordinator. Leslie Frazier's their defensive coach. Both are taking heat. They fired their safeties coach. Their safeties coach. Are you freaking kidding me? First of all, you lose Micah Hyde all year, right? He's out for the season.
Damar Hamlin.
Damar Hamlin, you lose. Yeah. You're going to fire your safeties coach? I don't know. That's just insane to me. Now there might be other moves that happen because I will say that Frazier and more so Frazier, I think, than Dorsey. Dorsey's a first-year offensive coordinator, but I just was like, "Are you kidding me? They're firing the safeties coach."
Someone's got to take the blame. I mean, look at the Chargers. I mean, Brandon Staley is one of the dumbest coaches I've ever seen in my entire life. The one coach in the NFL that I think is dumber than John Harbaugh, and he didn't get fired. They fired their offensive coordinator. The offensive coordinator took the blame, and now they're searching for an offensive coordinator. When in reality, Staley should have been fired for what he did and down the stretch. But
Mike, I want you to go back. Several videos ago, Rick was all over Brandon Staley back in. I remember before the Ravens kicked the Chargers' ass this year. They beat them by like 30 points because Brandon Staley went from a 4th down like 8 times, and it was like 1 for 8. And I remember it was like a couple weeks before that, Rick's like, the Ravens need a head coach like Brandon Staley, a young guy who has some balls. It's like I love playing.
Maybe not like Brandon Staley, but maybe somebody else.
You mentioned his name. I swear we'll find it one day. We'll play it back. But anyway, it's. I get it. The young coaches are the trend, but he's a little extreme, and I think everyone agrees with that. The guy doesn't have the punt button in Madden. It just doesn't exist.
It's not only young coaches, but the young coaches that are offensive minded as well is what people are looking for. That's why Leslie Frazier. I mean, we were kind of talking about that on one of our shows. He never got any looks as a head coach. Now he was a former head coach, and it didn't go so well, but. Still, it's like young. Every team wants young and offensive minded, and they want him playing Madden ball for sure. Madden ball's the new thing.
It's funny that you say that because I was just about to make a comment. I saw a funny tweet. I don't know if I shared it with you guys or not, but it was like after last week's games on Monday, somebody tweeted and was like, every team just needs to hire like a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old.
I love it.
All they do is play Madden, and they know how to like increase your probability of winning by like going forward in certain situations or not punting or stuff like that. Like every team just needs to hire like a kid that plays Madden obsessively at the age of like 14.
I love it. That's funny. Well, that kind of does it, guys. I mean, Let's just wrap it up real quick. I mean, for me, it is the Bengals win this game. It is the Eagles win this game, and we see the Bengals and Eagles. Chris, it sounds like you're going Chiefs. and you're going Eagles as well.
Mhm.
And I think, Rick, you said you're going to stick with the Niners pick because that's what you said earlier in the year.
Well,
And,
yeah. I mean, Niners were my pick, so I'll still stick with them. Obviously, don't want to go against
Okay.
what I picked earlier in the year, but for me, it's Chiefs to win that game, and then the under in the other game for sure.
well, it's certainly going to be some good games. I mean, we got the four best teams, and it's going to be exciting football. I can't wait. So let's talk about upcoming shows. So for the Nickel City Mafia channel, from a Bills perspective, we're going to be talking about what went wrong in that game. We've had time to digest the film a little bit, and we're going to be talking about where do we go now, right? Where do we look in the future? What are we going to be targeting? And then Rick and Tony, they continue to bring you an amazing golf show, 5 or 6 golf show, which usually goes off every Monday. In our Discord channel, you want to make sure that you join that because not only for the golf show, you can talk about the Bills, you can talk about the Sabres, you can talk about golf betting, NFL betting. But Tony posts a model, a golf model every week that helps you. If you're in the DK, DraftKings, which a lot of us are, it's super helpful when you're trying to decide on a lineup. And Rick and Tony do a great job. Now, Chris, looking forward to getting back into the fantasy football stuff this year. And Chris will actually be doing a couple shows just talking about the different leagues. This guy, how many leagues are you in, Chris? It's like, and you manage all of them, right?
I'm in 9 fantasy leagues.
Oh my
5
God.
of them are dynasty, and 4 of them I manage myself. So yeah, really into the fantasy space. Looking forward. Let's do a show and tell people about the different types of leagues. Why they might want to play dynasty instead of a season-long league. Why you might want to do best ball. You can just do the draft and then forget about it. Those are fun too. So yeah, excited to get back into fantasy talk. For me, I'm a real big dynasty player, so the season never ends. I've just been researching rookies a lot the last couple weeks, and I'm ready to talk rookies, Mike. So give us another month or two, and we'll talk about NFL draft. Me and Rick usually do a NFL mock draft, so we'll get into that too.
Yeah, we'll do some mock drafts with you guys. We didn't do that enough last year. We'll collab. Me and Jake will get on. We'll represent from the Bills side what we think we're gonna do, go after, and you guys can represent the Ravens side. But Rick, it sounded like from a fantasy football perspective, you dropped a team recently. Did you just have too many teams on your plate?
Nah, man. Sad news. I'm getting out of the season long fantasy game. I think I'm just officially retiring after playing for 25 years now. I think.
Wow.
I'm just tired of it. I just think season long fantasy is just too difficult for me nowadays with people as sharp as Chris playing out there. They just know how to play the game, and I just don't. I'm just completely lost. I'm more of a DFS guy. I like to know the news 2 days before the games and be able to pick my players every week. So yeah, season long, just not my thing anymore. It's just like it's 17 weeks of a grind on a team that you just, like for example, like I had a fantasy team this past season that in the league where I had like the dopest team. Like I had like Derrick Henry and DK, like just a bunch of like stud players, and I just couldn't even get out of like the first round of the playoffs. It's so much luck. But I'm not going to talk down upon it. I mean, I know people like love playing fantasy football, but I still love it. I still like fantasy football, but for me, it's more of a DFS, played only on Sundays, DraftKings kind of guy. So I'm getting out of the whole season long fantasy game.
I don't know how Chris does it. If he's in 9, he's got 9 teams or whatever. He's got to be on his phone 24/7. Like, I don't know if he sleeps. He's getting alerts all the time. Well, I don't know how you do it, Chris. Just, I mean, I've never played more than one. I love fantasy football. Never played more than one team, and that absorbs so much of my time. I don't know how you can do 9, and then the different rules in each one of those leagues.
Well, to be fair, I play 8 of my 9 leagues are on the same platform. They're on Sleeper. So it's nice having everything in one app. It groups my notifications by league, which is nice. And to be honest, sometimes when you have more leagues, I find it to be beneficial in some ways because you don't overthink things. If you have 1 league or 2 leagues, you tend to like over trade or, over drop and pick up people. So this kind of like I'm not dumbs it down, but it's like you don't really have the time to attempt to be fancy and do too much. So you kind of just keep it simple and manage your teams. So yeah, let's talk some fantasy soon.
I think that's why I agree with Chris what he was talking about earlier with best ball. I think next year I'm just going to play best ball leagues. I think,
dude, Rick, I would love to like I would love to know if a lot of people that watch this channel are like would get into best ball, because I would love to do a lot of best ball shows. I think, like regular season long fantasy football, I'm not going to say it's going out of style, but it has been in style for 20 years. Yeah. And the two new types of fantasy are dynasty, which is like, okay, you keep your team every year, and best ball, which is like the opposite, which is like, all I want to do is draft, and it's literally locked after that. You cannot make any changes. So it's like polar opposites, but those are the new hotness, right? You either dynasty, where you're like all in 12 months a year, or best ball, where you literally draft 500 teams and then your app is locked and you just watch your scores. So, I mean, I love best ball because it all comes down to draft strategy and like preseason, taking stands on players. Yeah. So, yeah, Rick, do some best ball homework. I think you would love it, because you literally just like grind drafts for like a month straight and do 5 or 10 drafts a day, and then you just hope you win.
We should do a Nickel City Mafia best ball league next year, where just people from the channel that want to play, and just all you have to do is do a draft and be committed to that for like 2 hours, and then after that you just don't do anything.
It's over. It's literally locked. You couldn't change a thing if you wanted to.
Well, once Chris he does his shows about these different types of leagues, I'm all for it. It's fun. We got a one and done going on right now, which is kind of fun. Yeah. But yeah, I can't wait to hear the different rules around these other leagues, Chris, because I've always been, basic fantasy football. It's pretty much it. And now you're throwing at these. Oh, you can start 2 quarterbacks in this type of league. What the hell is that all about? Anyhow, so Dustin's out there, and hey, I always forget to say this, but I've turned over a new leaf. I don't ask for your subscription until we earned it, so I like to say it in the middle show, towards the end of the show. If you like what you see, please hit that like button, put a comment out there. We love it, and most importantly, drop a nickel on that subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it. All the guys on the channel really do. Got 1,200 subscribers. And we're going to continue to grow and bring you all the content. Fantasy football, golf, Bills football. Hell, we even have we talk food sometimes on our show. So lots of good stuff going on. So thank you everyone in the channel for joining us tonight. It's just makes it that much more fun when we have some interaction going on. So Dustin, TB83, really appreciate you guys. So more girls. I don't know. I don't want to say the guys. Yeah. I don't know. There could be guys.
I have an announcement.
Yeah.
I'm going to the Super Bowl.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
I don't know. I'm probably not going to the game. I really don't have an interest, but Rick, you got to meet me there. I just found out today, a couple hours ago, I got tickets to Waste Management golf tournament on Thursday. So I'll be going to Waste Management in Scottsdale on Thursday. And then, helping out a friend with running a couple of parties and events on the lead up to the Super Bowl. So no interest in the game probably, unless I somehow luck box into like a free ticket, but going to be in sunny Scottsdale for the week and checking out some golf, and yeah, definitely going to be looking into like placing prop bets and whatnot. So we should do a prop bet show, Mike. Everyone loves to do like goofy prop bets for the Super Bowl.
I'm all in for that. Sounds good. All right, guys. Thank you again, Chris and Rick. Appreciate your time, man. You guys are fantastic. So thank you so much. Well, take care. Take care, everyone.
All right.